How to find a vacuum leak in your car. A vacuum leak in a car indicates that air is leaking into the engine through openings that ought to be covered. The leak affects several systems that depend on a sealed vacuum system and lowers the engine's overall efficiency. Knowing where to search for the issue may help you identify evident problems if you think your automobile has a vacuum leak. If you don't immediately detect the leak, you can try various approaches or enlist the aid of an expert. So let's learn how you can find a vacuum leak in your car. How bad can a vacuum leak be? A vacuum leak in a system can have various negative effects, depending on the severity of the leak and the specific system it is affecting. Here are a few potential issues that can arise from a vacuum leak. Poor engine performance. If a vacuum leak occurs in the engine, it can cause a reduction in engine power, rough idle, and stalling. Check engine light. If the leak happens in a system that is monitored by the vehicle's onboard computer, such as the EVAP system, it can trigger a check engine light. Increased fuel consumption. When a vacuum leak happens in the fuel system, it can result in an air-fuel mixture that is too lean, causing the engine to burn more fuel than necessary. Emissions issues. A vacuum leak in the exhaust gas recirculation (EGR) system can cause the engine to produce more pollutants than it should, leading to emissions issues. Brake failure. In some vehicles, the brake booster relies on vacuum pressure to assist with braking. If the brake booster loses vacuum pressure due to a leak, the brakes can become harder to press, leading to brake failure. In general, it's critical to take action regarding a vacuum leak as soon as you can to avoid any potential negative effects. What are the symptoms of vacuum leak in a car? A vacuum leak causes a lean running state when it is present. The fuel and air mixture are fundamentally thrown off, which will affect the vehicle, though exactly how it does so will depend on several distinct factors. A modern vehicle's O2 sensor constantly checks and adjusts the air and fuel mixture. To balance off the influx of air when a vacuum leak is present, it sends higher fuel levels. Typically, the outcome is a high idle. In earlier cars with carburetors, there is no mechanism for the system to enrich the fuel mixture on its own. Instead, you're left with a choppy idle, which you'll probably have to rectify by adding far more fuel than usual to settle things. It's vital to remember from this information that your ears make it simple to locate vacuum leaks. You can hear changes in the engine's running condition as you perform many of the instructions below. How to find car vacuum leak. Recognize every vacuum line, tube, and component. Knowing the precise locations of your engine's vacuum lines should be your first step. Once more, your vehicle may have a label under the hood, but if not, you can probably get that information online or in your owner's manual. If the engine has been altered, each situation must be considered individually, and you must become familiar with the particulars of your setup. Conduct a visual inspection. I'd like for you to look over each line and connection to check for any noticeable issues. A line may be broken in half, have a split in it, or be disconnected. If so, you have identified the issue. Invest in a vacuum tester. Vacuum leaks occasionally exist in difficult-to-reach circuits and systems. For instance, a malfunctioning brake booster will cause a vacuum leak, which is impossible to detect visually. Fortunately, you can use the fancy tool you use to bleed your brakes. Simply connect it to the vacuum lines, pump it up, and check the reading. If it can hold a vacuum, you can cross it off your list of potential offenders and move on to testing the others. Check for vacuum leaks in the intake manifold. Your manifold could be in danger. Verify that the throttle body, carb, or anything else is free of any damage or cracks. Check the manifold for any vacuum sensors to make sure they are not damaged as well. Use water to find vacuum leaks. Even with just water, you can locate a vacuum leak. You can hear water being pushed into the engine when you spray it on a vacuum leak. It won't have much of an impact on idle, but it might work for significant vacuum leaks like hidden line cracks. If this video was helpful, please consider subscribing to this channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.